up a bit of your time this morning to come and hear about Scottish Edge, and welcome to the Scottish Edge Round 17 workshop. Appreciate you coming on, appreciate you having an interest in the competition, and hopefully this next hour and a half will be beneficial in helping you navigate your way through the Scottish Edge process, finding out about what we look for in the competition, and just giving you some hints and tips around as you go through that application and then the sort of video process. So I'm Stephen Hamill, I'm a Chief Operating Officer at Scottish Edge. I'm joined today with my colleague Jack, who's our Marketing Communications Manager, and we've also got Lindsay Waite from Social Investment Scotland, who will be joining us later on to just talk through one of our sort of key parts of the assessment process that we've just altered for this round. So the purpose of today's workshop is to help get you better prepared, help raise awareness of the competition, and help give you the best chance of success as you go through it. Everyone who is coming on today will have some sort of interest in applying for Scottish Edge Round 17, and ultimately, if you've got an interest in applying, you want to be one of our winners. That's mainly the reason why people come into it. So this process today will hopefully give you some insight into what the competition is, what the assessment process is, and make sure you're best placed to put the best business case across. So as I say, we've got some slides to go through. We'll sort of just move on to, I'll just share my screen now. And as I say, once we're going through it, probably the best viewing option for you, if you can go into speaker view, you'll get the best view of the slides. So we'll kick things off. Okay, so hopefully you can all see, we've got our slides here. Okay, so as I say, I'm Stephen Hamill, Chief Operating Officer. Okay, so we've got an agenda for today. So first thing is basically run through what is Scottish Edge. So we'll give you a bit of detail around the competition itself, the organisation, and then we'll move on to the different categories within the competition. We'll cover off our key dates, so the important things you need, the sort of milestones you need to work to in terms of submitting applications. We'll talk you through the application process, so how you go about entering the portal, the questions we ask, some hints and tips around sort of what to sort of put in your answers. Then we'll talk you through a bit of a structure around the dreaded 3-minute pitch that you need to do. So we know that nobody looks forward to doing that. So we'll hopefully give you some advice around putting that together, what we're looking for, and how you can structure it. Then we'll talk you through the assessment process. So what happens once you have submitted your application, put in your video, what then happens once it goes in front of an assessment panel. And then we'll touch on, as I say, we'll do some top tips just around the video and application. And these are just some learnings we've got as we've went through the process. No doubting as we go through today's workshop and we cover off some of the bits, you'll have some questions. So what we've got is a chat function on Zoom. If you want to submit any questions, then please use the chat function. My colleague Jack will manage that as we go through the workshop. So if you've got anything you want to send, please use the chat and send it to Scottish Edge co-host. There should be an option in your drop-down if there's anything you want to ask. Hopefully the things you've got on your mind, we'll cover off most of them as we go through the process. But if not, we can pick some of them up at the end if time permits. And if not, we will follow up anything that we can't actually cover off on the day. We'll follow up with you after the workshop. So we'll kick off first of all with what is Scottish Edge. So I'll read out our sort of mission statement or what we aim to do at Scottish Edge. So Scottish Edge is a competition aimed at identifying and supporting Scotland's up-and-coming, innovative, high-growth potential entrepreneurial talent. So a couple of key words in there for me which I really want to stress, and they're quite important as we're going through this process, and it's something that we want you to keep at the forefront of your mind as you're doing your application and putting your sort of submission forward. First one to really focus on is competition. Scottish Edge isn't a grant provider, we're not a loan provider, we're not a business support organisation, albeit we do all of those things. Our main function is to deliver a competition. So when you are doing your application, doing your video, what you need to bear in mind is when you come into Edge, you are competing against another couple of hundred businesses, and we'll touch on the numbers in a little while, to stand out and impress more than any other business that comes in. So you might have the best business when it comes into the sort of competition, but if you don't stand out in terms of your application submission and your video, then sometimes that can really hinder your opportunities to go forward when it comes to that assessment. So please make sure you bear that in mind. This is a competition. It does take quite a bit of effort to stand out. So any half-hearted applications do really stand out and very rarely progress. So make sure if you're going to do this, you're committed to it and you're prepared to put the time in. The next bit on our mission statement is up and coming. I want to focus on that. So Edge is about the early stage business talent we have here in Scotland. And we want to identify these organisations and businesses and people at that early stage and give them that support and that boost and that leg up to really push on and maximise their opportunities and help them sort of achieve their ambitions quicker than they would have without the support. So it's about early stage, and we'll touch on a bit more of that around when we get to the eligibility part. So it's about finding really early stage businesses and helping them flourish and grow. And the last bit is high growth potential. So again, going on to that competition part of it, Edge is about trying to find the early stage businesses, and the businesses part is it. It's not just about having a really good idea, but not being able to demonstrate how you can deliver on that idea. We want to know that there's a high growth potential, there's a business strategy there, you're doing a lot of the work to make sure you've got the business plans in place. So again, as we go through the questions and the assessment criteria, hopefully it will bring to light how important it is to focus on the business side of things, rather than just having a really, really good concept or idea. So it's about making sure you have that balance between an innovative, good idea, but making sure there's a really strong business backing that up. So that's our mission statement. That's what we're here to deliver. How we do it is through the support of a number of organisations. Where our funding comes from is sort of 4 main organisations. So we are supported and partnered by Royal Bank of Scotland, the Hunter Foundation, Scottish Government and Scottish Enterprise. So they put in the sort of initial core funding for Edge to set up and get going, and through the sort of success of the competition, we've now managed to sort of continue to deliver it for just coming up 8 years, I think it is now. And through their initial support, we've now got a really strong sort of foundation of a business, which is now widely recognised as the biggest business competition anywhere in the UK. So again, bear that in mind when you're going through this. Scottish Edge, it's got that reputation as the biggest business competition in the UK. So when you're coming in, it's not just a small organisation that's looking for half-hearted applications. It's looking for you to put that work in and those effort in to really stand out. And in addition to our key funders who make up the core part of our sort of main board, we are also supported by a number of other organisations who sit on our advisory board. So we've got Highlands and Islands Enterprise, Business Gateway, Social Investment Scotland, Entrepreneurial Scotland. So a lot of the key organisations that support businesses throughout Scotland, they are part of our sort of wider advisory board. So we probably touch most business organisations anywhere in Scotland. There is an association with Scottish Edge with most business support networks, business support agencies, anyone who works with early stage businesses. There is a link there normally with Scottish Edge. So That gives a lot of benefits to you as a business looking to apply, because there's lots of people who have awareness of Scottish Edge and how it works, and we've had a lot of people involved in our judging. So there's lots and lots of support out there. There's lots of people out there who you can turn to for advice and guidance on your application when you're looking to do it. So you can use those people and go out and speak to people and get advice on how your submission's looking before you actually put it forward. So today's workshop focuses on round 17 of Scottish Edge. And what that means is we've then, prior to that, we've had 16 other rounds. So just a quick snapshot of what's happened in those 16 rounds. So to date, we have now supported and funded 421 different businesses across Scotland. For the competition, across those 16 rounds, we've had just almost 4,000 applications. And in total, we've given out almost 17 million. And there's some stats there around some of the impact and what those businesses have delivered across the years. So that just gives you a snapshot in terms of some key figures. So moving into round 17, we first of all want to look at the eligibility. Who can actually apply? And if you go back to that mission statement that we spoke about earlier, we mentioned the phrase up and coming. So our eligibility is built around supporting early stage businesses. So to be eligible for Scottish Edge, and we'll touch on the different categories, you must be a trading or a pre-trading business or trading for less than 5 years. And that ties in with the early stage nature that we're looking to support. There is a couple of exceptions to that, mainly around some of our life science and technology businesses, where they can sometimes be set up for more than 5 years, but they take quite a while to develop the product. So we're happy to support them, because normally trading has been less than 5 years, even though they may have been set up for an organisation. They're still doing a lot of the development work in those first initial years. Every business that applies to Scottish Edge and to be eligible for the competition must be headquartered in Scotland. Your main business base must be here. You don't have to be registered in Scotland as an organisation. You can be registered in England or elsewhere. But as long as your business is headquartered, your main operations take place here, and the business growth that you're looking to achieve over the next coming years in terms of maybe bringing in people or in creating jobs, etc., that should impact on Scotland. So there should be a benefit to Scotland in that. You must have current sales turnover of less than £1 million. So again, if you're a business out there, fairly established, you've already fairly successful, you're turning over more than £1 million, then we wouldn't see you as eligible. There may, again, maybe some exceptions. We'd be happy to discuss individual cases on that, but it is designed for, again, those early stage businesses. We're looking for 50% of the business ownership to be attributed to people working on the business day to day. So what that's trying to get across is we're not looking for businesses that are heavily funded by investors overseas or down south. Or this is about businesses that are, the core of it is in Scotland, and the people working in it, the core of it's in Scotland. So again, just making sure the key people are sort of Scottish based and focused on this business. We know for many of the early stage businesses, there will be other areas that you focus on, where you may have a job elsewhere, there may be other things where you're starting to build this business. That's fine. But as long as the key people looking to develop this business are the ones who are mainly focused on it and they're based in Scotland, then that's absolutely fine. And in terms of the ambitions of the business, so again, going back to our mission statement, we're looking to support the high growth potential businesses. So again, over the next sort of 3 years, in terms of your business sort of plans for growth, we're looking for businesses that can turn over about 200,000 or so plus over the next 3 years. And that's in a cumulative over a 3-year period. So that isn't something you need to do in one single year. It's about just over the next 3 years, can you achieve 200,000 cumulatively? And again, there's a longer time frame allowed for sort of life science, technology businesses, it can sometimes take a longer period to get to market. So that's the key eligibility parts of it. Then if we go into the sort of other parts, we've got sort of different categories in the competition. So if you think as when we're going through this and we're going through the whole workshop, if you can imagine Scottish Edge as a competition and it's got 3 different categories. We'll touch on in the next screen, we've got various different awards within those categories. But if you focus on, we've got 3 main categories. First one is Scottish Edge. That's our main one. That's the one that's been in existence since the start of the competition. And that's the category that gives awards up to £100,000. And to be eligible, you must be a registered business entity. So you must be registered as a limited company or a social enterprise, KIC or a charity. So you must have a sort of registered number and you must be registered at Companies House or Oscar or something like that. So you must have a registered number. And that registration must be in place by the closing date of the application window, which for this round is the 10th of February. And again, we'll touch on the key dates in just a bit. So you must be registered by that date. For our other 2 categories, which is Young Edge and Wildcard Edge, and we'll touch on them in a bit more detail next. You don't have to be a registered company, although you can be a registered company, but you can also be a sole trader or partnership. So again, we don't have to have that registration in place. And if you are eligible for Young Edge or Wildcard Edge, you will be considered for them in addition to Scottish Edge if you're a registered company. So you'll be registered for or considered for all the categories. So you don't have to be specific around what area you want to focus on. So that's the eligibility. So next up, this is how the competition actually format works for you as you go through. So we'll touch on, first of all, Scottish Edge. As we said just a second ago, that's our main competition category. And that's the one where you can win £100,000, or there's a top prize in our Higgs one, which we'll touch on, of £150,000. So do that. To be entered for that, as you say, you must meet the eligibility of being all the headquartered in Scotland, etc., and be a registered organisation. And then what you do, you submit your online application and you deliver a 3-minute video presentation. Those 2 are then assessed through a first stage assessment, and they're assessed by a panel. And if you're successful, you are then invited to what we call the semi-final. And that's when we will do an online sort of pitch session with you. You will be invited, you'll be given a time slot, and you will then come on, you'll deliver a 3-minute pitch to an independent panel who will be on a sort of a Zoom session like this with you. And then the panel will have 7 minutes to follow up with questions, and they will then assess you on that. And then if you're successful from the semi-final, you'll go to our Scottish Edge Grand Final, which again is a similar format to the semi-final, with the only difference being this is then a live event. Obviously, most of our finals have been in person, but due to current circumstances, our last round we had to do as an online virtual event. And just depending on government guidelines for this round, we will have plans in place for an in-person, but more likely it will be an online session again. But again, that will be delivered, it will be live, and it will be streamed out to an audience of sort of business supporters and various people different watching. And from the final, if you're successful, and then you would win a Scottish Edge award. All of our awards in the Scottish Edge category are split a 50% grant and a 50% payback part to it. So there is a bit of a part within there that you need to return to Scottish Edge. And the purpose of that is to looking to build a fund that is supported by entrepreneurs within Scotland and then benefits the up and coming entrepreneurs. So any funding that's paid through that is then put back into the prize fund to support the next batch of winners coming through. So that's Scottish Edge. Also within there, as you'll see at the top of the screen, we've got a number of accolade awards that fit in within the Scottish Edge part of it. So we have got Higgs Award. So all of these are Scottish Edge Awards. The process for all of them, apart from one, which we'll touch on, are the same. You just go through the same application, semi-final pitch and through the final. But you could win from this accolade award. So the Higgs Award is for our top science or technology or engineering business within the competition. So if you come into the competition and you operate in the science, one of the science sectors, you've got a technology business or an engineering business, you will be automatically considered for the Higgs Award. You don't have to do anything special on your application. You don't have to tick anything. You will just automatically be considered for it. And as you go through, if you are at the end of the competition, when you get to the final, if you are picked out of the final as a top science or technology business, then you would be given the Higgs Award. And that carries a prize, a top prize of up to £150,000. So there's a sort of caveat to our top prize of 100 award. We do sort of stretch that with the Higgs Award to say we can give up to 150 for that top prize. We've also got a Creative Edge Awards. Again, don't need to do anything special, but if you operate in the creative sector, then you'll automatically be entered into this. And again, for the top creative business, as selected by our panel, you can win an award. And again, it's a Scottish Edge Award, so the prize pot is up to £100,000 for that one. So, and that can sort of come out to the top creative business as picked by the panel. We've also got similar, we'll come back to the social enterprise one because we do that slightly differently. We'll come back to that. Well, circular economy one is the same as creative and Higgs. You go through the Edge process. If you are a sort of zero waste circular business and that award is sponsored by Zero Waste Scotland, again, you can be considered for a sort of accolade title. And that accolade title brings additional support and advice from Zero Waste Scotland. Their team will work with you to add some extra benefits and build those support network for you. We've also got STV Growth Edge Award, which is a category we just added in for our last round. And if anyone tuned into our last finals that we had in October last year, you will have seen the announcement of our first Scottish Edge Growth winner. So that's an award that gives a cash prize, a Scottish Edge cash prize, but also in addition to that, through the brilliant support from STV, you can get an advert made for you, and that will be broadcast on STV. So that advert will be made and you'll win up to £75,000 of airtime for that. So that's a brilliant prize. It's a great opportunity for early stage businesses to get their product or their service offering in front of a wider audience through the STV reach. So to be considered for that, again, you don't need to do anything special. All you need to have is a product-based business, a consumer-based business, something that people sitting at home would have an interest in. So that's that. So if you've got that, again, you don't need to do anything different on your application. You just go through the application as normal. And the final, or the last one before we come to Social Enterprise Edge, is IBIOC, Industrial Biotechnology Edge. So for any biotechnology business that comes in, again, there's a specific prize that's sponsored by IBIOC. And again, that will just be selected by our panel at the final, and you'll get an accolade award, and you'll get some additional tie-in with IBIOC for any additional support that they can offer to you. So that's those accolade awards. The other one we've got in there is Social Enterprise Edge. So we've got through our support with Postcode Lottery, who sponsor that award, we've got a specific social enterprise award. So any social enterprise, so you must be registered as a social enterprise. So asset locked, you must have that sort of registered registration in place for, and to be eligible for this. So you can't just be you can't be a limited company with a real social drive. It needs to be sort of registered in the proper way. So that all our social enterprises are still considered for a Scottish Edge Award. So you're still eligible for the sort of main category, but there's also the additional benefit of being able to go through a specific Social Enterprise Edge category as well. So all the social enterprises are basically pitted against themselves in a sort of competition, and we'll take sort of the top 5 to 7 through to a final. It'll still be the same online application and video, still the same first aid assessment, but from that, the top 5 or 7 social enterprises will go straight to a social enterprise edge final, which is similar format to the semi-finals, where you'll just come on to a Zoom, you will pitch for 3 minutes, have 7 minutes of questions from a panel, and then the panel will pick the winner. So there'll be one sort of top prize winner in the social enterprise edge, and that prize can be anything ranging from 25,000 up to 100,000. So for any social enterprises that come in that are not the winners of the Social Enterprise Edge Award, they can still go through to Scottish Edge Final. So there's sort of 2 bites of the cherry if you go through it that way. So that's Scottish Edge. The next 2 are Young Edge and Wildcard Edge, and we'll run through them. They operate in a very similar way. So Young Edge and Wildcard Edge. So Young Edge first is for our younger entrepreneurs. So anyone aged 18 to 30 is eligible for Young Edge. So that's where the sort of main people in the business must be aged 18 to 30. If it's a sort of team, for example, a mother and daughter team, and the daughter's under 30, the mother's over 30, then they wouldn't be eligible if they've got a sort of equal playing in the business. So it needs to be, everyone in the business needs to be under 30 for that one. So again, it's the same online application and video that you would do for Scottish Edge. So you don't need to do anything different. There is one box on the application form that asks if you're eligible for Young Edge, and all you would do is tick that if you sort of tick the boxes for that. Then any business that's eligible for Young Edge will be assessed in the same way, and the top sort of 10 would be picked to go into a Young Edge final. So Young Edge Awards, you can win up to £15,000. So there's one top prize in that category of £15,000 and another 6 of 10,000. So we have a £75,000 budget for Young Edge, and the top sort of 7 out of those 10 finalists will win an award. All the awards in the Young Edge, same as Wildcard, which we'll touch on, are grant only, so there's no payback part to any of those ones. And our Young Edge and Wildcard are seen as a platform for future Scottish Edge winners. So if you come in and you're selected to go through Young Edge and you win an award, you'll get £10,000 or £15,000 to help you take a couple of steps forward in your journey. And then the expectation from us at the Scottish Edge team would be that hopefully within 6 to 12 months, you would then be ready and better placed to come back in again and apply for Scottish Edge and win further funding. So then you've got Wildcard Edge, which is our pre-trading category, which we introduced a number of rounds ago now. And the reason for introducing was we've seen quite a lot of businesses through the competition when we were assessing them that we thought, do you know what, that's a brilliant business idea, but it's not got a lot of the sort of business strategy or customer validation that's needed to sort of really stand out in Scottish Edge. So it's still pre-trading at the moment. So let's have a sort of category for just those ideas, concepts, and help those businesses at very early stage to help get a prototype made or do their validation work or whatever needs done just to really demonstrate and take a couple of steps forward. So Wildcard Edge is purely for pre-trading. So you must be pre-trading, not made any sales of your product or your service. And again, you just come in and do the same online application form in 3-minute video. There is a box to tick for Wildcard Edge, and then you'll be assessed in the same way. And again, 10 businesses will be selected from that to go to the final. And from that, 7 awards will be picked, same as Young Edge, a top prize of 15,000 and 6 of 10,000. So there will be a number of businesses out there going, oh, we meet Young Edge, we also meet Wildcard Edge, we meet Scottish Edge. What do we go for? The easy answer is you go for them all. You do one application form. The application form is standard, no matter what category you're going for. You do your application form, you do your video, and then you put your Scottish Edge application in. You tick the box for Young Edge, you tick the box for Wildcard Edge, and as you go through the assessment process, the assessment panels will, through that competition part of it will decide where you fit best in terms of where your sort of assessment merits you going forward. So don't panic about trying to pick a specific one. There is some people out there who will go, do you know what, we're not ready for Scottish Edge yet to sort of win £100,000, but we're really well suited to Young Edge and Wildcard Edge. So we do see a number of applications coming in, and they just focus on an amount for £15,000 or £10,000, and that lets an assessment panel know that you're just really focused on Young Edge or Wildcard Edge. So you can do it that way. We also often get asked what if I apply for Scottish Edge but don't get through? Can I then go into Young Edge or Wildcard Edge? And the answer to that one is yes. So if you apply, for example, to Scottish Edge and ask for £50,000 to help you grow your business, but then the panel through the assessment think, you know what, there's just missing out in Scottish Edge getting through to the semi-final, but you know what, they're a really good Young Edge contender, then you score in your assessment to help you progress in Young Edge, then you would then fall into the Young Edge category. Prize pot would then be £15,000 or £10,000, and we would come back out to you at that stage to say you're now only eligible for that amount instead of £50,000 that you originally applied for. What sort of would you like to spend the £10,000 or £15,000 on? And we'll do it that way. So that's the different categories. Apologies that's quite a lot to take in. But as I say, hopefully there'll be some questions coming in, we think. So if there's anything specific, we can hopefully get to them at the end. And if not, we'll cover that off in more detail just offline. We'll pick up with people. So that's the different stages. So the next bit is just to put into a bit more context around the actual numbers that we've got. So at this stage of the competition, when the application window is open, we have literally no idea of how many applications we will get for an Edge round 17. We got, in the last round, was our highest number of applications ever. So in round 16, we actually received 327 applications come in. The average is around 250. That's normally the average, but last round was the highest ever. So if we base to some figures for this round on having 250 applications, as you say, it could be more than that. It could be actually less. To give you an idea of how tough it is and how competitive it is and how much that competition element is important when you're going through the process, we'll just talk you through some figures. So if we've got 250 applications, we reckon about 200 of them will be eligible and looking to win a Scottish Edge award. What that means, the other 50 will maybe just have focused on Young Edge or Wildcard Edge, or maybe a sole trader coming with a Young Edge or Wildcard Edge. So about 200 should be eligible for the main category. At the end of it, I think we'll have around about 11 or 12 winners when we go through it. We'll have a prize pot of around 800,000 in the actual Scottish Edge category. So those 11 winners, if you take those 200, you've got about a 6% chance of being successful. So again, just when you're doing this, when you're doing your application, just think about doing your application form in your video at this first stage. Make sure, am I going to be in the top 6% of all these applicants to make sure I'm in a good place of winning here. For Young Edge, we'll probably get about 80 applicants. This is just based on averages across the previous rounds. We'll get about 80 and we'll have 7 winners, which means there's about a 9% chance. If you're eligible for Young Edge, you've got about a 9% chance of winning. Wildcard, which is often our most highly contested and toughest category to actually win, because so many of our applicants for Scottish Edge are still at a pre-trading stage. We'll get around 140 that may be eligible for Wildcard Edge. And again, with 7 winners in there, which gives you a 5% chance of being successful. And again, with our social enterprise edge, we'll normally get around 20 applicants. And if we've got 1 social enterprise edge winner, again, that's about a 5% chance of success. So if we take overall, we've got 250 applicants, then we'll probably take around 55% through to our semi-final and Young Edge and Wildcard Edge final and Social Enterprise Edge final. So from the first stage, which is doing your application form and doing your 3-minute video, and you'll then be assessed on that. All 250 applicants would be assessed in the same way. And from that, we'll look to take the top 55. So you've got around about a 22% chance of getting through to the next stage of the competition. So I often say that the first stage of an Edge competition is the toughest to get through. The figures back that up, that you've got a 22% chance of going through. So that means 78% of the applicants at the first stage won't go any further than their application form and their video. And within those 78%, there will be a lot of really, really good businesses in there. So really good businesses that may have either just missed out because the panels have felt in the competition part of it that other businesses have just edged them a little bit in terms of the scoring, or there'll be some really, really good businesses in there that may not have just done their application justice, and they might just have missed out or just not putting that little bit extra in terms of the detail that's needed. So for the first stage, the other reason we say it's the toughest is because for the first stage, when it's an application form and video, we can't come back out to you and say, we've seen this on your application, or you said this in your video. What does it mean? Can you give us a bit more detail? What you put down on your form and what you put in the video when it comes to it is what will be assessed, and that's the only information we'll assess. So it's making sure that you get everything across that you want to. So then when you get to those 55, if you're one of the lucky ones to get through to the next stage, so from 55, we will probably have ultimately 26 winners. So that's split across 12 or so for Scottish Edge. We'll have 7 each in Wildcard Edge, maybe 1 social enterprise. So it's about 26 winners. So that's out from the original 250 applicants. It's 10% chance of success. So when you're coming in just now as a round figure, doing your application video, you should be sitting there going, right, this is a competition. We've got about 10% chance of being successful. How can we really, really stand out and really impress? But if you do get to the final or through to that next stage where there's 55 businesses left, and you look at, if you get to that stage, then there's going to be 26 winners, your odds become a bit better. If you can get through that first stage, you've then got about a 50-50 chance of being successful. So it's again just making sure you really stand out for that first stage. So, and again, I'm sure there'll be loads of questions on that, but we'll come to them as we get to the question part at the end. So round 17's open. We opened it in the middle of December to allow people to, we'd had some feedback previously to say it'd be a good time to open it in December so that people can work on their applications throughout the sort of festive period when sometimes it can be a bit quieter for people. It's a good time to work on an Edge application. And we know a number of businesses have taken up that and already started applications already. But for those of you on the session today, whether you've started your application, had a look at it, or not started at all, the key date to focus on, and the sort of probably the number one date to keep in your mind for the moment, is the 10th of February. And that's when we close our application window. So it closes at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we know that there's always a rush at that time. So we say to people, just for technology issues or anything like that, please give yourself plenty of time to make sure you meet this deadline. We've got quite a small team at Scottish Edge. There's 6 of us. We are quite a nice team. We hope we come across as a nice team. But this is the one thing we have no leeway with. We're really strict around this application window. So we will not accept any applications that come in after that deadline. So please, please, please make sure if you're going to be doing an Edge 17 application that you work towards this deadline and have it clear in your mind that you must have everything done. The next dates after that are on the screen. Hopefully you can see them as we work through. Once we've got all the applications in, we'll carry out all the assessments, and we'll touch on how they work soon. And we will send the results out by the 9th of March as our sort of plan to let you know. So once you submit, 10th of February, we'll go through a process and get all the applications checked, and we'll let everyone know by the 9th of March whether you've been successful in getting through to the next stage or not. If you've been successful, you'll then get invited to one of the pitching days, whether that's a semi-final or wildcard final, whatever's appropriate for yourself, and you'll be given a time slot and the date when that will happen. The dates are on the screen, so those dates are set in stone. So if there's any of those dates that don't suit, or if you're looking to say, yeah, I hope I'm in the social enterprise final, but I'm already doing something in that date, please let us know as quickly as possible. As I say, we've got all those dates in the diary. The assessment panels are just about completed for them, so we've got these are all booked in for everybody's diaries. So if you can just let us know, and we'll see if there's a way we can sort of support you, but hopefully those dates will suit and you'd be available. For the semi-finals, for anyone who goes through in Scottish Edge, the semi-finals run across 3 days, but you would only be invited to one of those days. So, and for those days, it's only basically a 15-20 minute time slot you get. So you're not expected to be available for the full day. You're just allocated a short period when you come on, and after that, the day's yours. So you don't have to sort of be part of that whole day. It's just your allocated time slot. And then at the final, once everything culminates, we've got a Scottish Edge Finals Day. So for those in the semi-final, you would be invited along and you would pitch again on the 11th of May. That date's still to be confirmed because we're kind of holding off for government guidelines to say, can we do this in person? And if so, we'll look to get a venue for it. And if not, it will be online and it will likely take place on the 11th of May. And then all of our awards are announced on the 25th of May. So we do let people know if you've been successful or not, but we then have an award ceremony on the 25th of May to sort of finalise that and announce it publicly. So that's the key dates, but as I say, key one for the purpose of this workshop is the 10th of February, and making sure you get your application done then. So moving on to the actual application process itself. I'm pretty sure many of you had a look at this, but if not, then please, after the workshop, please make sure you try and look at this as quickly as possible. So how to access the application form that we're looking for you to complete for your Edge 17 application is through the Scottish Edge website. So it's just www.scottishedge.com. And then once you go into that, you should reach this page that you can see on screen. And then there's an orange button that says application and support, and it's just a case of clicking on that. And then that should take you to this next screen where you see various information about our competitions and the criteria and the support that you can get. So what you see on there is you've got the how to apply section, and there's an apply here button. So if you click on that, it will take you into our application portal, and we'll just show you that in just a second. Also on there's a couple of support parts that you can look at. Again, there's a support section we'll cover off, and our assessment criteria that you can go into so you can see what you're actually assessed on in the various bits. So for the application part of it, if you click on that, then you go into apply here, you will be shown a screen which is like this. So from there, you actually go into our application portal. And it's an online portal where you complete all your information that's submitted to. So you've got two options on the initial screen. You've either got already registered, so that's if you've used our online portal before and you have a sign-in detail, which is normally your email, and then you'll have your own password that you've selected. So if you've got that, you would click already registered option, and then you would sign in, use your details, and you would access the system that way. If you're brand new to Scottish Edge and you've not used the online portal before, then please click on new applicant. Then you'll get this screen that you see on there, and you just click on the orange button, applying for round 17. You will then, from there, be taken through a series of screens that just ask for basic business information. That's your business name, your address, your contact details, various things. Ask you a bit of a short business description, ask you how you found out about Edge, what's your Twitter handle, all these things. So it's capturing the sort of key data information from you. And then once you've sort of input all that information, the next stage is it will ask you to create your application form. So you go in and you actually create your application. So you go in, I think you're asked how much you want to apply for, and then you will eventually reach a screen which looks like this. So this is your one-page application sort of homepage, basically. So review application, so it tells you all about it. At the top tells you what Edge is. You've got a link to our competition brochure, which gives you lots of information about the competition and some key sort of FAQs you can go into. You can see the assessment criteria. Then it's got a section just in the middle of the screen there, which is your application questions. So we've had a sort of small handful of businesses in the past that have thought when they go through their sort of data information, basically their business name, their address, putting a short business description, they're kind of thinking that's them done their Edge application, but that's just the key capturing information. What you actually need to do is there's a number of sort of questions in that application section in the middle of the sort of slide you can see on screen. There's 8 sections there, and we need you to complete all of them. So there's the sort of funding one, there's a value proposition, entrepreneurial spirit, etc., etc. So you've got those question buttons, you just click on one at a time and you complete the questions. There's never an expectation for you to do this all in one go. It is when you go into it, you'll see it's quite a lot of information that we're asking for. And we do encourage people to start their applications as early as possible, give themselves as much time, because we know you've also got a business to run. You've got other commitments, so we don't want this to take up all of your time, or you leave it too late and you're spending 2 full days working on it. So please just give yourself time, do bits at a time. The system works that you can save it. Any answers that you put in, it will save automatically for you, or there is a save button on it. You can save them and then come back to them at a later date. So you just work yourself through each question at a time. Once you've completed all the questions, and we'll show you an example of one in a second, you would also then put in your video link. So again, we'll touch on the video later, but your video link is a maximum 3-minute video. It doesn't need to be 3 minutes, but you've got 3 minutes to use to get your business story across. And what we need you to do, put on that screen, is your video link once you've got that. And then once you're happy, you've answered all the questions, put your video link in. There's a bit at the bottom that says confirm application. So that's just making sure all your information is accurate. You're ticking that box. And again, you can't see it on screen, but just below that, there is a button to say basically submit. So that's the key parts of what you need to submit to be entered into the Edge 17 competition. So those questions, the video link, and then just tick the boxes below and submit. So going back to those questions, so if we were going in to answer one of them, if we clicked on value proposition, for example, you would be given a screen that looks like this. So I think there's maybe 4 or 5 different questions within value proposition section. And what you'll have is you'll have a sort of key question, which is in bold writing, and then there's some sub-questions within there. And then you've got a box that gives you the opportunity to fill in your answers. Those sub-questions and that key question are there to give you a guide as to what we're looking for you to give us as information within that box, that particular box. You don't have to specifically answer each question. They're there as a guide, but they're there as a really good guide to sort of tailor your answer appropriately. There's also a word count for each box, and it's just about making sure you utilise that. You don't have to use every word, you don't have to, but it's about giving you an idea of if it's a sort of 500 word box, then we're looking for a detailed answer. We're not just looking for one line as in there, because then in that competition aspect we mentioned earlier, you just wouldn't stand out in terms of getting the key information across. So that's the layout of the questions. I'm not going to go through all the various different ones, but that's how it looks. So you would just go into each individual section on that previous screen, and then you would answer the appropriate questions, and you would just save them as you go along. So that's the application part of it. So again, we'll touch on some of the areas we look at. We'll touch on them in terms of the assessment criteria. I'll give you more insight into what we're looking for, but that's just the basics of how you actually do it. For easiness, for people, this is basically what we ask across the key sections that we're asking you on. So all of those questions broken down and taking out the key points of it are basically shown on screen. So that's an easy one-page offering of what we ask. And you can sort of take a screenshot of that or a photo of it, and it just gives you an idea of here's what we're looking for as you go through your Edge application. So I'll give people a couple of minutes and we'll move on in case you want to capture that. Again, we'll just have as we'll go through it, we'll actually touch on some of these questions. So your summary, you've got what you're applying for. So value proposition, you'll see that's the first question that we're looking at. So this is a new section that we've added in to the Edge application. So value proposition is actually a combination of previous areas that we looked at within the assessment criteria, where we used to look at innovation and risk awareness. So what we wanted to do is just capture a general, what is the business, what's the landscape that you operate in. So in terms of value proposition, we're basically looking for you just to outline what is your business. And it sounds a simple question, but from seeing 4,000 applications to an Edge competition in the past, it's one that can often be missed. Sometimes people just don't get across clearly or articulate well what their business or product or service offering is. So make sure for a panel looking at your application, the first thing and most important thing at the start of it is they know what your business is. Also within value proposition, we want you to outline the competitive landscape. So what other products or offerings are out there? And 99% of applicants to Scottish Edge will have competitors out there. And that's not a bad thing, because that shows out there there's a need for your type of product. So it's about just you taking the time to gain awareness of what else is out there and be able to let people know, or the panel know, that you know who you're up against and how you're going to stand out. And that takes you to the next point, which is your point of difference. So we used to have an innovation category, which is all about what's innovative, but we've taken it away and we're just looking at what's your point of difference in your business. And that could be something around the product in itself, the way you've manufactured it, or just something clever in there. It could be about the technology you use, or it could just be about your business model or the way you deliver it, or about the team ethics. It could be about the culture of the business. So what makes you stand out and what will make you appealing to customers? And then we're asking about your key risks. So we want to know what's your challenges as you go on this business journey for the next sort of 2 to 3 years. And it's not about, we're not trying to, through Edge, find businesses where there's no risks. We know every business will have lots of risks and challenges and barriers to overcome. We want to just find out, do you know, do you understand the journey you're going on and what challenges you need to sort of consider? And then within there, we want to know what's been your highlights. What good things have happened to the business over the last sort of 3 months or so? You can tell us about any coverage you've had, any progress you've made, any customer interaction, any good feedback you've had, just anything you think is a highlight. Please use that section to let us know. And then you'll be, so that's the questions within value proposition, and that's what you'll be assessed on. Then you've got entrepreneurial spirit question. We ask about who's the people. This is all about the people in the business. We want you to give us a background, sort of summary of you as a business leader, as a key people behind this, or key person behind this business. What is your background? What's your experience? What's your expertise? Why are you the right person for this business? And then we want to know what support have you got around you? Have you got an advisory network? Have you got people that have been and done it in this sort of sector that you operate in? Are you working with Business Gateway or Social Investment Scotland or anything like that. So just who's helping you on this journey. Then we look at growth potential. So this is where we look at actual business and the forecasts you've got and how you're going to achieve them. So you've got a section within this. When you go into it, you'll see there's a sort of couple of boxes in there that ask you what's your current sort of trading figures. What have you done if you're a trading business? And then for every business, whether you're trading or pre-trading, it'll ask you your next 3 years projections. So we want you to tell us about what are you projecting to do in the next 3 years. And it's about just making sure they're realistic. And then the important part in that section, it's not always about the numbers. The numbers that need to be realistic and give us an idea of the ambitions you've got for the business. But the important part is a box below that just asks you, how are you going to achieve these things? How are you going to deliver on the growth plans that you've got? So it's thinking about the how part and how do you link in the next section, which is your customers, into that. So then the next questions are all about your customers. Who are they? What demand have you got? What engagement have you had with them? So what stage is that engagement at? So one of the sort of most common areas of feedback in the last round or the last couple of rounds of Edges is there's not been detail of enough customer validation or interaction. So we want to know that you are building a business with your customers in mind. So you're not just building a business because you think it's a good idea. We want to make sure you have done the research and the validation and checking that there is a market need out there. So it's about who have you spoken to, what research have you done, what sort of feedback are you getting. If you are got a product and you're speaking to any customers, or then tell us what stage is it at. We often hear in a Edge application or a Edge video that we've got John Lewis or Tesco or someone like that is interested in our product. So that's great, but we want to know a bit more beyond that. We want to know, right, what stage is your discussions at? Have you just started discussions? Have you just sent them an email, or are you actually sitting down with our buyers and going through a product demonstration? So we want to know a bit more beyond just we've got interest from such and such an organisation. So the customer part, and it's not about stats. It's not about telling us you've got X amount of sort of customer base out there. It's about saying, here's who we've actually spoken to. So it's better having validation from 20 customers than having a market of 1 million customers that you've not even spoke to any of them yet. So just make sure you sort of focus on your actual customer engagement within there. Next bit's about utilisation of funding. So for every Edge application, you need to tell us firstly how much you're looking to apply for. You can apply for the main Edge category, anything up to £100,000, and then you would break down what you want to use that for. So Edge funding can be used for anything as long as it's legal. But the only thing you can't use it for, and we're keen to stress this one, we will not support a salary for the existing business team. So the existing business leaders or any staff within there, we won't support their salary, because this is about growth. This is about taking a business to the next stage, not just stabilising what's already there. So we won't support that part of it. And what we want to know is what you're looking to spend the money on it and what difference will that make to your business. So that's a utilisation of funding. And the last question section is on impact. And we'll come back to that one sort of a bit later on. We've got Lindsay coming on quite soon just to cover that off. But there's some specific questions within that, and Lindsay from CIS will touch on them later on. A couple of final bits. You've got attachment section on the application portal. The attachments part is really only for visuals. If you've got a product that you can't really showcase on your application questions, because you can't insert pictures and you can't really get across well in your video, this is a chance for you to put in some visuals so that the panel can get to see what your product looks like. It's not for putting in business plans. It's not for putting in financial forecasts, because none of those things will be looked at. So it's about just making sure you put in only the relevant things within there. So that's the application questions. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insight into what is asked and what we'll be looking for. So that's the application form. So you've spent your time doing that, put a lot of the business information in there, but then to complement that and to work alongside that, what you also need to do is a 3-minute video. And the reason for the video is, again, we've had lots of feedback from assessment panel members to say it's actually good to see the person or the people behind the form. So it's okay being able to do a really good form, but we want to be able to see the people as well. So the video is the opportunity to do that. So as I say, it's a mandatory thing. We know it's never something that people are comfortable doing. Yeah, you get some people who are happy to do it, but it's never an easy thing to do and stand in front of a camera and talk for 3 minutes and tell your business story. But hopefully over the next couple of minutes, we'll give you some detail of what we're looking for in the video and what the sort of key things to sort of get across. So your 3-minute video isn't about how good you are at making videos. It's about just getting your business story across. And it's designed to complement what you're putting on your written form. It works hand in hand with your written form. They go together. So you don't have to duplicate stuff that you've put in your form. You don't have to sort of read it word for word, whatever you wrote in your application form. We don't expect you just to be reading out stuff on there because you don't know what to say in a video. This is about you using your 3 minutes to enhance and overemphasize stuff that's maybe important on your application form, but more importantly, to get across who are the people behind the business and also give you the opportunity to showcase your product or your service. The video is the perfect opportunity to alleviate any of those questions that the panel might have from reading your form, to say, what does the product look like? What's it? What size is it? What colour is it? So this is your opportunity to actually bring your product to life and let people see what it is and sort of visualise it as here's what the actual product or service is. So if it's a physical product, it's a great opportunity for you just to show it on the video, to actually let the panel see here's what our product looks like. If it's a product that's still in development, it's a chance for you to maybe show a picture of it or a visual of it at an early stage, sort of drawing of it to see here's what we are planning on developing, here's what it will look like. If it's a technology offering or a service offering, it's a chance for you to show it. Here's a video of us delivering a training workshop that we did. And here's the people, here's some feedback from the people that attended it. If it's a technology thing, here's a chance to actually show a demo of it, take the panel through a bit of a demo on the screen, take them through a customer journey. Here's what it will look like for a user of this. So use the video to actually really enhance your overall offering and get across the sort of key product things and along as yourself. But to also help align with that, it's also good to have a bit of a business story as well. So your video, yeah, it's okay getting the people on screen, but what do they see? How do they sort of get across a key story? So what we've put together is a bit of a guide for people to see what actually works and what structure. And this next screen is not an edge endorsed thing. It's not something that you must follow this. This is just a structure to help if you're sitting there thinking, how do we actually put together a 3-minute story? We've already put all this stuff on our application form. What else can we see in our video? So as I say, the two key things in your video is you as a person, or a business team, and your product or service. That's the two main things that a panel will get. But they also want to hear about your story. So as I say, not to duplicate what's on the form, but you can sort of touch on things and actually sort of use the form as the sort of deeper information, but you can touch on key information. So there's a bit of a structure here. It's around the introduction and hook, which is just as a video starts, you want to grab people's attention at the outset. You want people to be interested and you want them to engage for the rest of that video. So try and capture them early stage. You can pose a question. You can do something, say a stat. You can just put something out there, a wow statement or something to say, did you know this? And that really grabs their attention, and then you can use the rest of the video to say how this is a problem as we go into and how you've got something to fix it. So use that first couple of minutes, because those first impressions do always count. So use those first couple of seconds to get across something that captures the audience's attention. Then you've got the problem. So what is the inspiration behind your business? Why do you do what you do? Have you identified an issue out there that you say, right, we've now got something that can fix this? We know it's a personal thing, or it's a family thing, or something that has been the inspiration behind your business. And then you go into the solution. The solution is, what's your product? This is your chance to showcase it, touch on it, tell us what it is, but here, actually show it and take us through it. You can touch on a wee bit about your market opportunities and how you make money, but again, a lot of that will come through on your application form. But again, it's about just touching on some maybe key points, touch on your competition, just to build that story. You can use the team. You can have the team, if you've got a team just beyond you, you can have more than you just in the video. You can have other people speaking. And then traction is the next bit, which is about what have you achieved to date. So just give us a bit of we want to know good things. We want to know what's good that's happened in the business. And then last, good thing to finish on your video is your ask. What are you asking Edge to do? We would like Edge to give us £50,000 or £100,000 to help us grow our business, to take it to an international market, or whatever it is, to summarise it. You don't have to go into, we'll spend it on this, this, and this, because that will be on your forum. It's just a general overview of what your ask is. So that's a bit of a template you can use to build a 3-minute story. What we say is we can normally speak around 120 words a minute. It depends, anything between 100 and 150 words per minute. That's an average. So if you go about 120 to 130 words a minute, is in what we'll say for this example, you'll probably get in about 400 words in your video. And that's probably all. If you think of one question in your application form, we'll give you the option of doing 500 words. But in your video, you've only got the option to do 400 words. So there's no way that you can cover everything about your business within 3 minutes. And there's never an expectation to cover everything within 3 minutes. Your video, as we said at the start, is about you as a person and bringing your product or offering to life, and just building that and aligning it with a bit of a short business story that then gives deeper information in the application form. So if it's about 400 words maximum, if you take those 8 sections, you could look at, right, then we'll say, right, there's some wording around our product. We're going to do a bit of a demo. We're going to take some time for doing a demo, which might be 30 seconds. So we've now got 2.5 minutes. So we've got maybe 300 words that we can do. If you take those 8 sections and say, right, if we could do 40 words in each section and then just weave it into a story, that gives you a good base of a 3-minute video. So it's about just taking those bits to see people. So for your video, please understand that we know 3 minutes isn't a long time to talk about your business. And we know that we've seen 4,000 odd videos in the past. We know you can't get everything, but please don't try and get everything in. Just get across those key points. So that's you done your video. So when you get to that stage, you've done your application form, you've done your video. So the next bit is about what happens next. So we then allocate your application when it comes in, and it's given a quick check over to make sure it meets the eligibility and we've got all the information we need. And then if it does, it's then put to an assessment panel. So we've got some assessment panels put together. We have got different people that we bring in from different support organisations who work with Edge, and they will sit on a panel. They'll come together, probably 4 or 5 people from different areas, and we'll get them on a Zoom session, and we'll look at various different businesses. We'll look at 10 to 15 businesses a day, and we'll have different panels in place across a sort of 2 or 3 week period. We'll also have some of the Edge team supporting some of the wider team who are not as close in terms of the actual competition delivery part. They'll be involved in doing some of the assessment part of it as well. So we'll have people from Royal Bank of Scotland, Business Gateway, etc. Some of our Edge alumni come in and support. We'll get some investors. So various different people. We'll just bring them in, and as I say, we'll put an application and video to them. We'll get them on, we'll watch the video and look at an application form and work through the assessment process with them, and we'll tell you in a second what we go through with them. Each of our assessment days are done on a sector. So if you're in the technology sector or a food and drink sector, or we will try and keep you within that sector. So if you're doing a food and drink day, you would go into a food and drink sort of assessment day. We'll have a panel who'll have some knowledge of that sector. May not be specific knowledge of your particular area, but they'll have a wider knowledge of food and drink, for example. And then we'll get some details. The panel will then, for each application and video, when they're looked at combined, we then ask them to do a score. We've got 6 assessment areas, which we've kind of touched on through the questions, but we'll touch on in the screen. We've got 6 areas that we assess businesses on, and we ask the panel to then allocate a score out of 5 for that area. So a 1 being not the best score, a 1 is a low score, and it's normally down to a lack of information, and a 5 is a great score for that area. So you've got a chance of getting 6 areas, getting a score of 5 for 6 areas. That's 30 points is available for your assessment. So that's your first stage assessment. When the panel look at your application form and video, you'll get points total out of 30 that you can get. And in the last round, I think a score of around 24 was needed to go to the semi-finals. 24 was kind of the sort of threshold. So anything sort of 25 and above was comfortably through. 24 was just on the borderline of going through. So you need to be aiming. So 24 is 4s across the board for every section. So you need to be aiming high. Again, as you go back to the one of the first things we said about competition, it's about just making sure when you're answering those questions, each area is measured equally. There's no weighting on any particular area. So you just need to make sure you put the work into each of the 6 areas and make sure you get across the key points to get as best a score as you can. Obviously, the panel we bring in, they're brought in because of their business expertise and they've got experience in some of the sectors, but they're also human beings. So they will also, from a customer perspective, want to be able to understand your product. So make sure, as I said earlier on, it's about making your product or offering or service really as clear, as concise as possible as to what it is. And finally, just to say on this section, all of our assessors that come into the Scottish Edge assessment process are under confidentiality agreements. So we get them to sign confidentiality agreements, which is a legally binding document, which is done by our legal partners at Harper McLeod. So any information that's passed to them is protected through that. We do not share any information with them until that's signed and in place. And only the assessors who are allocated for your assessment day will get to see your application form. So it will be a maximum of probably 4 people who will all sign sort of Scottish Edge NDAs. So in 16 rounds previously of delivering this competition, we've never had an issue around confidentiality. So hopefully that will give you a bit of comfort, because I know a lot of you will have information there that you may not want to share in a wider sector out there. So we just want to keep it confidential. So please have a bit of confidence that we will protect your information, and it's our probably number 1 priority, is making sure we sort of don't compromise any information out there. So please tell us as much as you're comfortable doing. We don't want you to put yourself in an uncomfortable position as well, but please tell us as much as you comfortably can to make sure we can do the best assessment as possible for you. So We've touched on most of these, so this is the assessment criteria. So when we've got the panels together, this is the 6 things we look at. So we'll have a sort of scoring sheet, and we'll put the scores for out of 5 for these 6 areas. And as I say, we've touched on most of them as we went through the questions. But we'll touch on them, and then I'm going to hand over to Lindsay just to talk through the impact section in a bit more detail, as that's a new section we've added in. So first one, as you say, value proposition. It's about what your business is and your point of difference in your competition. So the first thing we'll do to the assessment panel is asking the question, do you understand this product or service or offering? So that's probably the simplest question that we will ask them. First thing, do you get it? Do you know what it is? And again, you want to make sure you're saying yes. You want the panel to really understand this. If it's a complex case, which we will often see in Edge applications, if it's quite a complex business, please ensure you try and articulate it in a way that people will understand. It may not be experts in your sector. As you say, it might be a science or a technology business. We will try and have some science experts or technology people on the panel, but they may not, as I say, be experts in your particular field. So please try and make it as simple as possible for them. So we'll go through the various steps of the value proposition with them, and then we will ask them for a score. Then we'll go through the people part of it. The people part is all about the people in the business. So it's about, on your application form, telling us your own information, your own background, who else is in the team, what support have you got. We also refer to the video for that one. The video will give us a bit around the entrepreneurial spirit. So we want to make sure you as a business leader is in that video somewhere. We do often see people being quite creative in their videos and doing animations or various things, but we want to make sure if you're doing that, that's absolutely fine. But please either top and tail it or make sure you're in it somewhere, just talking about your business. The business growth bit is about just the forecasting we talked about earlier and how you're going to achieve that. So again, we'll ask the panel, is that a realistic forecasting? And more importantly, has the business outlined how they're going to achieve this? So they said they're going to do X amount of turnover in year 1. Have you got a clear idea in your head how they plan to achieve that? So that's probably the key question within the business growth. Customer focus we'll touch on around. We'll ask them about, have you got a clear indication that this business has been engaging with their target customer base, or they understand who their customer base is? Is there sort of strong validation of that customer base to make sure it is the right market fit for them? Have they, if they've been speaking to customers and they're telling us about, yeah, we've got interest from this customer or that customer, or do you understand what stage that discussion's at? So that's the types of questions and discussions we'll be having with the panel. Then the utilisation of the funding will just be around, right, they've asked for £75,000 on their application. Here's what they're looking to spend it on. Does that seem like the best fit for them at the stage of the journey they're at? Can you see where the impact is from spending on that area? So again, that's the types of questions we will ask. And the last area, as I said, is impact, which is a new introduced area. It's a new assessment criteria that we've done. We've got no previous history of assessing within impact. It has been something that we've been thinking about for quite a while now. And we thought it was the right time to do it. We did add an impact question into the application form in the last round, just to get a feel for how the businesses who applied in the last round would answer it and what sort of things were coming across. And it gave us a feel for, would this be the right sort of thing to add into the application form? And we were actually blown away by how many really good sort of purpose-led sort of business concepts were out there. The values around the businesses were so important. So we just thought, you know what, it's the right time to put impact in. But to do it, we had to make sure we were doing it and doing it right. And to do that, we had to work with a key sort of partner who live and breathe this day in, day out. So we were delighted to bring on board for this round Social Investment Scotland as our impact partner for round 17 of Edge. And I'm now going to hand over to Lindsay Wake, who's Head of Impact at CIS, who will just talk you through a bit around impact and why we've maybe done this and why it's so important for you to be thinking about this as part of your sort of business strategy. So Lindsay, I'll stop sharing my screen now, and hopefully you can take over and give us a bit of insight.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Thanks for that. Nice to see everybody, and I'm delighted to be here. As Stephen's mentioned, we are really happy to be working alongside Edge as Impact Partner. I'm not going to spend much time talking about us because I want to get across this information about impact so that you can take that away, but also ask any questions that you might need to. So CIS has been around for 20 years, working with businesses who make a positive impact in the world. And in 2018, we launched one of Scotland's first impact investment funds called CIS Ventures, particularly investing in early stage high impact businesses. And I think it's some of that knowledge that we're bringing to Edge and has helped shape the questions that you'll find in the impact section. I'm going to talk for around 10 minutes, no longer than that. And I want to touch on why it's important to think about impact in business. I want to talk about just a few general comments that will help you in completing the application form, because it is a new section and some people may be more, I suppose, exposed to impact conversations in business and others less so. So there's some important just general comments. And then I want to focus in a little bit on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, because there's a specific question in the application. And I just want to touch on that to make it simpler for you looking at how you might respond to that. So first of all, I think looking at why it's important to think about impact in business, there's a few reasons why actually increasing number of businesses are doing this. I think firstly, we all know that businesses don't operate in isolation, and we will have all learned that particularly over the last year or so. Businesses are part of the world that we all live in. So how a business sets their tone and how they operate will actually affect the world around them. It will affect their customers and it will affect their staff. It will affect their suppliers and their suppliers' staff. It will affect the environment and all the communities that they touch. And so at CIS, what we encourage is that all businesses think about how to act responsibly when they're making business decisions. So how they're going to be fair, perhaps, how they're going to be transparent or inclusive, and how they're going to act with care towards the people that they meet and they have transactions with, and the planet. So at Edge, what we're looking to understand through the application form is what kind of business you are. And what you are, or what you're aiming to be, because some are very early stage, and we recognise that you might not have asked yourself these questions or made decisions about them, and that's absolutely fine. It's more about the intention and how you see your business developing. As well as it being the right thing to do, there's a lot of research that's showing that actually taking a purposeful stance towards business impact gives a competitive edge, and that's mainly in three ways. Number one, it attracts customers, and increasingly so it's attracting customers. Studies show that customers are looking for businesses and brands that reflect their own values. And customers are asking, what are businesses doing around the environment? How are they caring for their staff? How are they looking at and making responsible decisions in all their transactions and doing the right thing? So in terms of customers, it makes sense. Businesses also that take a purposeful stance find that it attracts and it retains talent. LinkedIn surveys find that there's higher levels of engagement and higher levels of motivations in teams where they find their work engaging and fulfilling, and they can feel committed and connected to a purpose. So it's worth thinking about it from your team's point of view. And also, where there's purpose, often those ones that are most engaged become the best ambassadors for your company or for your business. And purpose can also and does create profit. Harvard professors and others who are researching into this are increasingly and continually finding actually that businesses that take a purposeful stance and think about impact actually outperform those that don't. And now this is looking at stock market businesses. There is other research as well, but it comes down into all levels of business that actually where businesses think about it, they do tend to outperform others. So before I talk about the actual assessment section on the Edge form, I just wanted to make those general comments that I talked about. Firstly, some of you might be more familiar with this terminology and others not, and I just want to say, don't worry too much about terminology that you'll start coming across when we talk about impact in business. You'll probably hear mission-led businesses, mission-driven businesses, profit with purpose, social enterprises, of which there is that particular edge competition, impact-led. These are all terms that you'll hear. And my advice is, for this purpose, don't get too tied up in the terminology. Basically, it's around business as a force for good. What decisions are you making that helps your business contribute to good and positive impact in the world? So for Edge, we're interested in the overall culture and the value and the ethos of the business. So how you'll consider business impacts within your decisions and your activities, but we're not assessing whether or not you're using the right words and terminology to express that. So please don't get too tied up in that. Secondly, many of you will be at the early stages of your enterprise journey. So you, as I said earlier, you probably haven't made decisions about how ethical you want your suppliers to be, or how you will treat the people who work with you, or how you're going to minimize your impact on the environment, or how you're going to encourage diversity in your teams and leaders. And that's okay. Talking about your intention or the kind of business that you want to be is perfectly fine at that early stage. So please don't, again, worry too much if you haven't done it, but we need to understand your intention. And I think the last thing that I want to say is that there are a number of questions in that impact section. Nobody's expecting that you'll be doing everything. Obviously, we want to know about what you are doing and what you're thinking about doing. CIS has been around for 20 years. We have an ongoing working group and action plan. That means that we take steps every year and we're continually improving, but by no means have we done everything that we want to do. So it is a journey. So what we'd ask you to be is to be realistic in what you think you can achieve in terms of your impact, and that's what you should tell us. So don't feel like you have to have something expansive for every single answer. So if we move on to the actual impact assessment criteria, I've touched on some of those things that you will find in the questions as you go through that impact part. So there will be questions about, for example, whether you're going to be a living wage employer in terms of how much you pay your staff. And there are other questions in there around diversity, which I think are quite self-explanatory. But I wanted to touch on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, because that might be something that not everybody has come across. Stephen, this might be a good time to pop that slide up. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals, they're a set of goals that have been adopted by all United Nations member states, and that they were adopted in 2015. Stephen's just going to bring them up for us. And the way that they're talked about is that they're a blueprint for peace and prosperity in the world, for people and planet, for now and into the future. Now, this is quite an easy to access visual representation of what those goals are. I'm not going to go through each one individually, but in the application guidance available on the website, the web link that you've got, you can actually find a version of this. And if you click on each one of them, it kind of flips around and it gives you more detailed information behind each one. So in Scotland, for example, so far the government has developed a national framework showing how Scotland will strategically contribute towards these goals. And in general, there is an increasing conversation about how business can contribute to achieving these. So I'm not going to go through each goal today, but I think what I wanted to highlight was that if you know about these, or if you're working towards one of these in terms of the world's challenges, you probably know that already, I would imagine. And if you don't know that already, but this is actually starting to ring bells with you and you're looking at it and you're thinking, actually, what we do absolutely focuses on providing solutions for clean water and sanitation, or whatever it is, I'd advise you to go and have a look and just learn a little bit more about that goal and whether you want to tell us about that in the application form. I don't think many people will be addressing lots of these goals. I think you're likely, if you are addressing them, you're addressing one or two of those. And I think I'd probably also say you want to think about your core business purpose when you're thinking about this. So for example, you might be working in circular economy, and that is absolutely your business's reason for being, is develop a circular economy solution, for example. And that would relate probably to climate action. It might relate to, say, one other one. If you're considering and taking a very responsible decision about your packaging, for a consumer product that is actually fully biodegradable, that's probably not your core business. It's a very responsible decision, but your business probably isn't necessarily focusing on climate action. It's probably focusing on your product. So just have a think and think about, what does your core business proposition do, and is it helping to address and progress any of these global aims? I think the last thing I want to say about these is there are detailed targets behind each of these. Don't worry about looking into these in too much depth. They're global targets. We'd like a broad understanding of how you are contributing to these goals, if you are, and then the targets that you have, that you're monitoring and progressing against, if you've set them, that's fine. And finally, you might not be working towards any of these goals, and that is also absolutely fine. As Stephen said, this is a new section for us. In the last round, you know, really, really encouraging to see all of the purposeful businesses, but there are others too. So that is okay as well. We're not expecting everybody to suddenly say that they're contributing to these. So I think in closing, I just want to reiterate that it's absolutely fine to talk about your impact intentions, especially if you're early stage, because we fully accept that at that stage, you're maybe forming ideas, but some of these concepts might be useful for you to think about the kind of business that you want to be. And to be realistic and authentic in your impact intentions and what you tell us about them, because I think authenticity is absolutely key element of a purposeful business. So we want to really understand how realistic and authentic what your planning is. And that was all I was going to say, Stephen.
Brilliant, Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us and just really putting that expertise stamp around the impact part around it. Because as you say, it's a new area for us. We got a lot of support and advice from yourselves around introducing this. So just to actually hear it from yourself around the intentions part is probably the bit that stands out for me. This, as you say, this is going back to one of the first things. This is about early stage businesses and supporting early stage businesses. So there's no expectation at all that you're doing lots and lots and lots around this. But what we just want to find out about it, where does your head sit around these things, and what would you like to do? So I think, as you say, I think one of the questions I've got is, where do you see your impact in the next sort of, what area will you focus on in the next sort of 12 months or so? It's about what's the future looking like as well. So it's those intention parts are crucial. And I think, Lindsay, you sort of outlined the parts really well for us. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and join us today and outline that for us. Thank you. So just a couple of final things just to cover off. So that covers off the 6 assessment areas, with impact being the final one of them. So again, you'll get a score around impact, and it's again and we don't want people to panic around the impact part of it. It's about, we know you're looking to develop a business and grow a business and start a business. That's absolutely fine. We know that's probably your number one priority for a lot of you. But it's about just thinking, as we grow our business, what can we do in terms of being a business for good? So if you can get that across, that would be brilliant. So we've covered off quite a lot today, and we know there's been a lot of information to sort of digest throughout the workshop. So, but as you go through now and start to look at your application form and your video, we want you just to know there's lots of support out there, and we want to make sure that you can just access that support. So we don't expect you to be able to sort of just go through it all and say, right, here's what we're doing. Please make the use of the support and the different things that are out there. So there's quite a few things. First thing we've got is, and most of the things you can access through our website. There is a support page. I've got this and some forms here. So between these 2 pages on our website, you can get a lot of information. First thing we've got is a competition brochure, which you can get from here. Competition brochure is a forum. It's about a 24 or 5 page document. It's maybe not the most interesting read for everyone, but it covers everything you need to know about Edge. It covers some of the minute details that we might not have went into today. But one of the key things within that brochure is it gives you the full assessment criteria. So we've touched on parts of it today. We've touched on the 6 areas, But within those 6 areas, there's lots of sort of sub-questions that we can touch on with the assessors when we're looking to go through the detail with them. And all that information is in that competition brochure. So probably one of the key actions I would say to take away from today is if you've got a few minutes and you're looking to do your Edge application, make sure you have a look at that competition brochure. Don't need to read it all, don't expect you to read all of it, but there is the section in there that's the assessment criteria, and have a look through that just to make sure you're familiar with it. Also in there, we've got some example of 3-minute videos. So we touched on some 3-minute videos and how you can do a structure of it, how you can put it together, how you get your story across. What we've also done on our website, there's an example, or quite a few examples of 3-minute video pitches. And these are recent examples from recent Edge winners. And they cover a sort of variety of styles and different sort of ways of doing a video. So, and what they will show you is to give you ideas. They'll not show you that there's a consistent approach. There's not a one sort of best way of doing it. It's about just you thinking, right, how can we best get our business story across? So please have a look at these and just take some learnings from them. We've also got an example application form. So we've got a sort of round 16 application form, which is, as you say, from the last round. We've put in some example answers from previous businesses who have went through the Edge process. So as an overall business application, it makes no sense at all because it's different businesses and different answers. But what the idea behind giving you that is just to let you see the level of detail, the amount of sort of content is put in each answer. So you can have a look at that. That's a sample application that's in there. Hopefully you'll understand that there's no sample answers for our impact questions because we've never ran that before. So, but going forward after this round, we'll hopefully be able to do that. But as you said, we've not had any previous answers, so we've not got some sample answers for that. There's also a blank application form. It's a Word document of our Scottish Edge Round 17 application form, which you can download. We often get quite a lot of requests for that because people like to work on it offline or share it with other parts of their team. So that's absolutely fine. You can download that. It gives you all the answers or all the questions that you need to answer. So you can work on that, do your answers, but please bear in mind we can't accept a Word document as your competition entry. You would need to use that form, do all your workings on that, then sort of copy all your answers over to the online portal. So you can do that, but as long as your portal information is all input and ready to be submitted before the deadline. And the last thing that you can do in terms of support is you can ask the team. The Scottish Edge team are here to help. Obviously, some of the wider team are involved in are going to be involved in some of the assessments and just supporting that part of it. But we're here to help. So if you've got any questions, and I know a number of questions have come in today, which Jack has been fielding. There's a couple maybe we'll cover off just quickly at the end, but we're here. So if you've got anything, please just get in touch. Please just email us over or use the inquiry bit that's on the website and we'll sort of get back to you. Just to finish off, we've got some sort of tips here around your application. So just we'll briefly run through. Here's some general tips that we've picked up from doing quite a number of rounds of this now. So in terms of your application, as we said, we've mentioned it a couple of times already today, make it easy for the assessors to understand your business. Get to know the assessment criteria. As we said, we've went through the key points of it, but you can access the full one on the assessment, on the competition brochure. Outline your point of difference. So be clear around what makes you stand out from anything else that's out there. What's your bit? No matter how big or small that point of difference is, make sure you outline that. Be realistic in your financial forecasting. Our assessment panels are never impressed by high figures. If your high figures are realistic, that's absolutely fine, but don't try and impress by putting high figures there in terms of financial forecasting, because if they're not realistic and you don't back them up with a bit of substance of how you're going to do it, then those high numbers have no sort of real meaningful impact. Just make sure it's realistic and it shows the ambition you've got for the business. Tell us about real customer engagement. Make sure that customer validation part is strong. It's, again, one of the key reasons why businesses didn't progress in the last round was just their customer section wasn't as strong as some others. So make sure you've got some engagement there. If you're too early to be speaking to your customers, just make sure you really, really drill into who your customer segments are and why that's the right section for you. Break down how you're going to spend the money, make sure it's the right things at the right stage of your business journey. Obviously the impact part is covered off in detail there by Lindsay, so make sure you're thinking about that and it's those intentions are coming across strong. You don't want to leave the panel with lots of unanswered questions. Your application form and your video, more so your application form, is your chance to get across as much detail as you can. Because as you said, we can't come back to you. And last thing is double check your form before you submit it. Just have a quick look over it. Make sure you're comfortable, because this is your representation of your business. Make sure you're comfortable that what you're submitting is a good representation, and it will put you hopefully a chance of progressing in the next stage. A couple of things just around the video. Obviously, it's about getting you. We want to see you and your passion for this and your energy for this business. It's a chance to showcase your product or service. If you can involve your team. More and more applicants to Edge are starting to introduce their customers. So if you've got customers, just with making sure we're talking about that customer part that's really strong. If you've got customers that you're engaging with or looking to engage with, there's no harm in getting them on your video for a wee 10, 15-second snippet where they're talking about why they want to work with you, what value they see in your product. We're not interested in Hollywood quality. Most videos are done on your phone. So think about how you're going to do your video, not just what you're going to say. And the easiest way for most people is just to do it on your phone and then download it onto someone like YouTube or something. We'll touch on that in a second. Your video's not a test. It's not about how well you can remember a 3-minute story of your business. So you can use notes, you can use auto cues, but try and make sure you're engaging when this is your chance to showcase yourself to a panel. So as you said, we've said that before, they work together, so no need to repeat. For your video, if you are sending it in, we need you to send in the video link. So if you are uploading it, probably the most common one and probably the easiest one for people is YouTube. So if you're doing that, if you upload it to YouTube, what we ask you to do is use the unlisted option on YouTube rather than the private option. If it's private, if we're sharing it with the panel, who's the only people we'll share it with, they would then need access to your account. If you do unlisted, it means you can share the link with people, but because it's unlisted, it won't show up in any search things on YouTube. So it will still be kept private, but it means that we can share the link that you give us with our panel members. So that's the easiest. There is other video options out there like Vimeo or various other ones. So just do whatever one's easiest for you and get it into us. And if there's any issues with your video, we'll come back to you. And similar to your application form, make sure you check your video before you submit it. There's a number of reasons for that, but probably one of the most common ones is just to make sure the sound is good and make sure you're happy with it. We've had people trying to be creative again with their videos, maybe going on to outside somewhere and up on top of a mountain or a beach or something like that. And sometimes that's great just to be memorable, but sometimes the sound quality can be quite challenging. So make sure you're doing that and you're checking it back to make sure the sound is okay. That's just some tips around doing that. As you go through the Edge, as we said, the numbers, it's tough. About 10% of applicants will win Scottish Edge. But what we'll do is every business will get some feedback from the assessment process. So you'll get some feedback. So this is a bit of a insight into what some independent people who probably don't know much about your business, what they got from your application. So we'll give you feedback. That will come out with your results email. So that will give you sort of just an email format and it'll give you some detail. Edge is also a journey. It's hopefully quite a good journey for people because it makes you think about your business a bit differently. You can look at it a bit more longer term. It's not just a thinking about, right, how can we get through next week? This is about thinking about what's our plans for the next year, 2 years, 3 years of our business and how are we going to deliver on them. So it's about those intentions and plans, and what Edge is about as well. Sometimes you might not always win first time round. And what we're really proud of, the process we've got in place with the feedback and the fact that you can come back and strengthen your proposal, means that over 50% of our winners in Scottish Edge actually win on a second, third or fourth application attempt. So that means about half of our Scottish Edge category winners been in the process before, maybe not won, but seen the value in it, come back in again, and then actually got success in a sort of further subsequent round. But don't be frightened if you've never applied before for Edge. There's also the fact that 50% of our Edge winners, just around 50% of our Edge winners, actually win on a first application attempt. So I think the split's actually 52% win on a second, third or fourth attempt, about 48% are first time applicants. So you can come into Edge for the first time, go through the process, stand out, be one of the sort of winners, and walk away with some funding and support to help you on your business journey. So that's just some quotes we've had. So that's my challenge to you. So I really appreciate you giving up a big part of your morning to hear about Scottish Edge. We want you to be one of our winners at the end of it. This is our winners from a couple of rounds ago, just enjoying the moment they find out. So we want you to be part of that come round 17. So hopefully today's been helpful. Hopefully today will give you some detail that you can take forward. I know there's a couple of questions that have come in. Try and get Jack on. Obviously that's the key information covered. If anyone has anything specific they want to pick up with us, please get in touch. My details are on screen. Probably have my email anyway. Please do pick up with us. We've got a couple questions have been coming in. We know we've had 40, 50 odd questions coming throughout the course of this, and Jack's been fielding them, but I think there was a couple of specific ones, Jack, you just wanted to sort of cover off that we might not have covered during the session.
Yep. Hi, Stephen. So there was, I think I covered most of them, but there was a few that came in that we just wanted to get a bit more clarity on. So okay. One was from Joe. He was saying that his company's registered in 2014. He's been contracting through it, but last year he began a new venture with a new product, new staff, a new trading name. So given that he's got a new trading name, is he eligible to come in this round with that company, or would they need to register a new company to be eligible?
No, what we would probably need to look at what the activity was with the original company that was registered in 2014. If it was purely sort of early stage contract, if it was a different operation from what they're looking to do now with the product, we could look at that. We would need a bit of clarity from an accountant. Any business that's been registered for more than 5 years but is wanting to apply, and because our trading activity is less than 5 years, we need some evidence from an accountant around that. So we would probably maybe need to pick up offline just to get more specifics around that. But yeah, we'd be happy to look at it. And Joe, if you're still on, if you want to get in touch, we can set up a quick chat around that. We can see if we can get you through.
Okay, thank you. Other one was from Ken. He was just saying, is pre-revenue classed as pre-trading?
Pre-revenue, so what we're looking at is sales. So we know if you're out there and you're developing a product and you've got your product ready and it's ready, but you've not yet sold it yet, you're not out at market, you're still doing things, and it's so pre-revenue is, yeah, it's similar. For us, it's about as long as you have not out there with a product that is readily available and has made lots of sales. If you have, then we would class you as trading. If you've not reached that stage yet, whether your product's fully developed or still not ready yet, we would still class you as an early stage wildcard type eligible business, whether it's pre-trading or pre-revenue. So again, if we want to go into specific, hopefully that covers it to say we're happy to look at both of them in a similar vein as being eligible for wildcard. But again, probably needs a wee bit more specifics around the ins and outs of it. So again, we could have an offline chat just to sort of cover off the finer details around that one.
Perfect, thanks. So I know I said 3, but there's actually 2 more, just to be on coming at the end there. But so the next one is from Sarah, and she was just asking about the pitch deck. That one comes up quite often, but I know we can't normally use pitch decks for the live pitching, but is that different now that it's virtual?
Yeah, so probably what will happen is after this workshop was mainly focusing on the first stage. We will run another workshop after this stage to focus more on the live pitching stage and the sort of virtual pitching stage. Normally we wouldn't encourage it when we were doing an in-person one, but going into a sort of virtual one, which these sessions will be, we are happy for people to use a pitch deck. Whilst we're happy to allow it, it doesn't always say it's the right thing to do. And again, we would always ask businesses to consider if it's the right thing. If it enhances your business presentation, then definitely. But most importantly, from a panel's perspective, and the feedback we get is the panels are interested in the person and the business story, not always on slides. And sometimes slides, if they're too detailed, there's too much emphasis on them, can be quite distracting. It can take away from what the person's saying. So quick answer is yeah, they'll be allowed this round. We can do it, but just it's always to consider if it's the right thing for your presentation or not.
Thank you. So just the last one there, this just came in from Paul, and I think it's probably worth kind of discussing in the kind of wider forum here. It's just he's a bit concerned about the kind of scope of impact, given that kind of businesses will have different, degrees of impact depending on what their operation is. And I think it's more just some kind of reassurance around that it's going to be a kind of level playing field in that respect, that everyone's not going to be assessed against, a certain measure.
Yeah, so we know that impact will be, for certain businesses, that will be a big part of their business. And for other businesses, it might just be their business is about something else, but impact is part of it and they're building that into their business story. So yeah, totally appreciate the different degrees of where that will come in. That's something that we will manage effectively through the assessment process. This isn't about rewarding businesses because they're doing good for the environment. That's not what this is about. This is about trying to measure, has all of our businesses or got intentions to do something good, no matter if that's a high priority in the business or just something that's further down the line. It's about having an equal playing field, and it's about, is the impact of this that they're doing meaningful? So it could just be a business that makes a product, like makes a bottle of water, but what they're doing, they could be doing something within the local community to really help disadvantaged people or something. So that might not be the main aspect of their business, but if they've got that in their business story, that could be every bit as meaningful as a business, which is their core focus is on the environment. So it's not about just giving an advantage to those types of businesses. It's about just measuring it in respect of what that business does and where that impact fits in.
Perfect. I think that was all from Brett to cover.
Brilliant, Jack. And as I say, we are here as a Scottish Edge team. If there's any other questions that come in, please let us know. So again, just thank you for joining us. Just final thing to say is just good luck. We're looking forward to seeing the applications coming in. And if you've not started, then please have a look quite soon at the application form and try and start it as soon as possible, because it's not something you can do just in a very short period of time at the last minute. So please try and get familiar with the form, get familiar with the process, and just any questions, we are here to help. So thanks again, everyone, and hopefully see you soon and look forward to seeing all the applications. Good luck.